Hello, my name is Alex Hoare. This is a meeting of the Subcommittee of the Conservation Commission. It is December 17, it's 12:06. And we have present Commissioners Bruce Stedman, Michelle Lobb, Amherst employees Aaron Jock, and Dave Zomack. And I think Rachel Loeffler is going to join us. Is she coming in?
Yes, so one thing I just want to point out before I pull Rachel in, our subcommittee consists of 3 people. So when I add Rachel, it's going to become a quorum of the Conservation Commission. So yeah, it's
Can we just
just to,
not have Rachel join in any votes then? Make it a subcommittee only.
She should definitely not join in any votes. I mean, you
yeah,
haven't
definitely
posted
not.
this, you haven't posted this as a commission meeting, so
Yeah.
yeah, she can't vote today or at any of these meetings.
Okay, so I'm going to
Yeah,
pull her in.
Thanks for bringing that up.
Yeah. Should I pull her in as a panelist, or how would you like to include her in the meeting?
However, I don't know, however you think is best.
Okay.
I think she can be a panelist. Right?
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Is it chilly at your house, Michelle?
Well, I was just saying I have all my windows open to air it out when I can.
Okay, so Rachel's coming on. I see her name, but I don't see anything else. And I'll wait for her to go down through the agenda.
It might be good just to make Rachel aware of the, that we're kind of straddling this line of quorum as well.
And I just
Yeah.
want to say, I can also leave, like I don't.
Oh, no.
No,
I don't think you have to leave.
it's a posted meeting. We just want to make sure that we're not voting as a conservation commission.
Sure.
Yeah, since it's a subcommittee.
Yeah.
So could you tell her what that means?
So if somebody from the subcommittee makes a motion, then it would just be subcommittee members seconding and voting, I think is the rationale that we'll use.
So does that mean that she can participate, but not vote or second a motion?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think that seems reasonable.
Just to be clear.
Yep.
Okay, so we have an agenda today, and I want to ask, is any member of the public on now?
No.
Okay. We have a fairly lengthy agenda, and I gave minimum time to each, so we'll see how far we've can go. We'll buy some time because some of the items here I don't have prepared. But we're going to first review comments received on draft policies. So far, I don't see any. Revisions to proposed approved rules. And I sent that to Aaron with copies to others. I'm going to separate out the hunting discussion, which is part of that. We have a proposed policy for community gardens. I do not have bird banding written yet. I do not have beavers written yet. And I'm not ready for forest management yet. So there's 3 subjects that we can buy almost a half hour. And then we have native land acknowledgement discussion and talk about agenda for next meeting. And I've got written down the policy topics that are before the commission. Either they have voted on them or they're in front of them. And we will make sure that if public comes on, there's opportunity for public comment. And then topics not reasonably anticipated prior to the meeting. So from the outset, just thinking about where we are and what hopefully will go to the commission, I don't think we're going to be able to wrap this up at the end of the calendar year. And so we'll be looking for an extension. We can talk about that during this meeting, but just our commission meeting is tomorrow, and there's I doubt enough time for them to look at things and think about them before we ask them to vote. So as hard as we've pushed, we've come very close to meeting the end of year deadline. And I doubt it's gonna probably go a little bit into January, which is fine with me. We can talk about it. So review of comments. Aaron, I'm not aware of receiving any comments on any of the things before the commission, other than we got some from Rachel. Are you?
You mean official comments on any of the documents that we shared?
Yeah,
Yeah, I don't believe any commissioners have submitted formal written comments on any of the subcommittee policies.
okay, good. So I sent out a document called revisions to, or that, I don't know what the file's called, but the agenda calls it revisions to approved rules. And at the last commission meeting, there were a bunch of rules under the topic of rules and regulations that we put in front of them, and they voted to approve them except hunting. And since then, I made modifications or suggest modifications to mountain bikes and horses because we never got to talk about trail modifications and some modifications to a part of the dog policy. And then I've completely rewritten the hunting, which I've got on the agenda as a separate item. So I'd like to go down there, and hunting is the last item on this document. So if we could cover them in order and just treat hunting as a separate agenda item, that would be great. And I'm glad Rachel's here because she is a mountain biker and is fairly familiar with mountain biking. So what I've done in the files that you have is I yellow highlighted the language which has changed. If it's not highlighted, you've seen it before, and it went before the commission. I may have reorganized it a little bit. So like under mountain biking, it now has an A, B, C, D, etc. instead of being all lumped together. But other than that, those words are the same. So if we could go down through mountain biking, and I don't think there's a need to read it. You have it, and I can sit quietly if people need a moment to go down through it. I see Dave looking at it. And I'll just wait until somebody would like to bring up a question rather than me going down through it. Bruce?
The one that comes to mind for add a few more examples, the one that jumps out is cutting between switchbacks.
Are you looking at the right file? Oh, you want to add then?
Well, what I have in front of me is number 15, and in red it says add a few more examples.
I think, did I attach the wrong file to the message to Aaron?
Well, it's the one I printed out, December 17th, revised draft in red. It has 15, 17, and 23 are the ones that are there, just like yours, but it's a different version.
What is what you should be looking at is what's on the screen.
Okay, well,
Yeah, in yellow.
I see in E, 15E, there are other examples, and I would say cutting between switchbacks could be added. That's my comment.
As something that the commission, that would require commission approval.
We wouldn't allow that. That's a trail creation, right? So
That's why I said it would it would require commission approval, meaning
Mhm.
you can't do it otherwise.
Right.
And if proposed, the commission might deny it.
Well, then we can leave it the way it is. It's
Just,
fine.
I just want to make sure I'm understanding what Bruce is saying. I think what Bruce might be saying is that under the modifying experiences, under E,
Yes.
that would require a permit from the Concom, that he's just asking if cutting between switchbacks be added to the list. Is that,
Sure. I don't have a problem.
is that what you're
Well-
saying, Bruce?
Well, now that I think about it, I don't want to bring it up. I don't want
You
people to
wanna
even
bring it up,
attempt it.
Yeah, hi, Rachel. Michelle.
I mean, in addition to cutting between switchbacks is creating any kind of new trails in general. And yeah, I don't really, I feel like if we put it on this, it seems like there's margin for it's acceptable with permission or something. But I think that town policy is you don't create any new trails on town land. So
Okay, well, I withdraw the idea.
Well, is that a policy? Where is that policy written? I'm just saying, like,
We
do
don't.
Yeah,
we
and I
have
mean,
that as a
it's-
policy?
we
I,
don't-
I thought it was somewhere, but all of the things listed shouldn't be allowed either. So I don't know where we draw a line between, you know, cutting vegetation and building things and then creating new trails. Like it's all sort of the same bucket of trail modification to me.
I might have missed something, but I'm kind of wondering how we even got to E. Like it just doesn't seem consistent with, everything else we've talked about. Why would the commission even grant a permit for trail modification? With all the other prohibitions in this document, I mean, you can't remove vegetation. You can't, a lot of our trails are in wetlands. I guess I don't remember this in an earlier document, and I apologize if it was there and I missed it.
Okay, is there
But
anything?
I just am kind of like, we don't even encourage people to kind of to dam a stream to go swimming in, or I'm just
Okay, so the legacy for E comes from an email that Rachel sent us.
mhm. Well, I remember that email, but I
So
remember the conversation about saying, well, we can't do trail by trail, right? Historically, I think we tried to do trail by trail. This trail is wet, and when I first started, we posted, in the spring, and that is just an administrative nightmare. But this seems to be going further to kind of say, hey, if you apply, we might let you berm, or we might let you manipulate the trails to make that. And I'm just like,
remove a rock,
I'd like to hear from Rachel directly about this.
Rachel.
Yeah, I think there was a previous version of this that talked about no jumps, no building of jumps. And that's why I wrote the email, because a lot of mountain biking is really trail riding and not jumping jumps.
mhm.
I wonder if this passage were to remain, if it would make sense to say modifying existing trails or creating new trails to enhance the mountain biking experience. One thing that can happen that I've seen at Earl's Trails is, and some other places, is they call them pirate trails, where someone goes in and starts making windy trails to connect between other trails just to have more
Mhm.
turns. So being clear that that would not be allowed may be beneficial.
Yeah, how do others feel? I mean, I just feel like this kind of opens up a door that I didn't know was open some weeks ago, which was, if you apply, you might have a shot, and then before you know it,
I mean, I
Mhm.
would suggest that we just say modifying trails to enhance the mountain bike experience is prohibited, and then say examples include, because if there's going to be a proposal that comes for any type of mountain biking trail, it's going to be coming through the Conservation Department and through the Conservation Commission separately, and not like just residents planning trails and coming to the Concom for permission, like that's something that they would need permission through the town and the Conservation Commission for as the landowner before they even undertake this. Just seems like that would simplify it.
Well, so that we did have trails being worked on up on the Holyoke Range. And folks were building bridges or walkways in wet areas. They
That
were,
was the DCR property.
well, they were still doing it on the trails. And
Right, but with the permission of DCR
Yeah, on
before it
state
was
trails,
done.
not
It's
on
not like,
town trails. Yeah.
but they were
yeah,
still, it was an organization interested in working on the trails, and it was allowed. And
right.
we had a site visit, so this is working on the
Yeah,
trails is not unheard of. And
yeah.
according to Rachel, there are organizations that could be very helpful in providing some trail maintenance. And the town is short on staff. And there may be come a time when a partnership with an organization like that might be very useful.
But I think
Yeah.
we're kind of mixing and matching here, Alex. Typically, and again, I have nothing against mountain biking and mountain bikers, but typically mountain bikers volunteer to, they're not volunteering for general trail maintenance. They're typically volunteering on sections that, you know, that they want a mountain bike on and enhance those trails or whatever, make them safer. But it's, I just want to make sure we're not doing it because we want to recruit volunteers. I think that's the wrong motivation to do this. I think we ought to start from a place like we have with this whole document of resource protection. So do we really want modifications made to trails for the express purpose of mountain biking? Because I think if you go there, you kind of have to, I don't know, I think it draws into question a lot of, you know, we spent hours talking about what you can cut and, you know, removing, I don't know, firewood and all sorts of discussions we had over the last couple of months. And I just think I don't know, it just,
Bruce, you had your hand up?
There's a member of the public with their hand up.
Oh, okay. I'll get there after Aaron.
Yeah, so I was just going to say, relative to that project on the Holyoke Range, that was a DCR and Kestrel Land Trust grant that was awarded, and they actually recruited the uh, uh gosh, Appalachian Trail Association to represent that project. So it wasn't sort of like a grassroots effort to do it. It was actually like with in cooperation with the landowner that those trails were worked on. So I'm just saying, like, you know, the landowner has to have they have to have permission from the landowner before any work happens. But then I was going to also point out that Andre is in the attendees, and so I'd like to add him in as a panelist if that's okay. Obviously, if I do that, we're going to have, you know, we've already got 4 commission members. We're going to have 5, and so we just have to be careful about voting once I add him in, and we'll make sure he knows that.
Let's bring him in.
And I can't see attendees when I'm sharing my screen if they raise their hand or they're in the meeting. So just so that the commission knows, if I'm sharing my screen, I can't see any attendee action going on.
Okay. So Andre's coming on in incognito. Michelle?
I just want to say that I'm in general agreement with Aaron and Dave on this one. And if there is some kind of mountain bike trail enhancement, the genesis should be through the commission and through the town, maybe in partnership, but not necessarily through sort of an invitation in our rules and regulations. And, it'd be interesting to continue this conversation as a future project, but not as this is sort of maybe allowed, oops, I didn't ask permission first kind of scenario that we're setting up for ourselves.
So you would strike the whole section or reword it?
I would strike it in terms of must have permission from the Conservation Commission. Yeah. Kind of, I think Aaron sort of provided a verbal edit that I was in agreement with, but probably not the to enhance mountain bike experience. That sounds sort of punitive.
Punitive. Andre, you have your hand up. Welcome.
Thanks. Just real quick to the example that you gave earlier. I remember that was land belonging to DCR that the Kestrel Trust wanted to improve for hiking. That was the stated purpose that of the land that we were talking about just up on the M&M Trail. But but the other, just kind of to center you back to that application. But the other thing I was going to mention is that it is illegal to create trails, right? Or to make trails on conservation land without a permit.
I think we are questioning where that's actually written.
I mean,
Okay, so
it
yeah.
does state like you can't remove vegetation, so I think there's sort of underlying language, but I don't think that explicitly there's no creation of new trails permitted is stated. So we might want to consider including that.
Definitely, I
Yeah.
would recommend doing that. But otherwise, what I'm seeing is wording specific to mountain biking, and I would just kind of, it's prohibited anyway. I mean, we need to prohibit it for anyone to create a trail. Is it okay for a horseback rider to create a trail? Is it okay for a fly fisherman to make a trail down to a stream or whatever? No, right? So I think, I don't know. I think rather than narrowing down the activity that you're doing, emphasizing the prohibition of wrecking I'm just putting certain words out there, but emphasizing the prohibition on disturbing the land, I think is a strong way to set down laws.
So if we're going to say something about not building trails, I question whether it's appropriate to announce that under mountain bikes and horses. That's a subject all by itself.
Yeah.
And ought to be its own policy, and should probably create that. And then, given the will of the subcommittee to modify this here so it pertains just to mountain biking, and for all, I didn't write anything about horses, but it certainly occurred to me that people shouldn't be making corrals and things of that sort, but I didn't do it. So I would propose that we have a section on trails and state what it is we're prohibiting, and then modify this to pertain just to mountain biking.
I think that could work. I don't think it needs to be a really extensive section. I think it can be,
There's a line or two.
yeah.
So Rachel, I want to hear from you on this. None of us that I know of are mountain bikers. You are. So I want to hear from you on this.
Well, I mean, whatever the subcommittee decides, I understand. I do think a lot of mountain biking trails in other places are multi-use, so they are horses, they are hikers. So it does make sense to have anything about physical modification of trails more in the general category of trail building rather than specific to mountain biking. Because what's good for all users is good for mountain bikers too.
So maybe we should pull this whole thing out and turn it into something under a trail policy.
Mhm.
How do you feel about that, Michelle? I see your hand, Andre.
I'm good with that, and I agree it could be simple, like no trail modification or creation of trails, just very straightforward. And not even with I mean, examples are good, but we'll never be able to be exhaustive, so just keeping it short.
Andre?
Yeah, I think I would have to agree with you that making it no modification of trails, that's what we're really looking to do, is to protect the trails, not to specify who can or who can't modify it. So if it's a general no modification for everybody, then we're accomplishing what we're looking to do.
Okay.
Uh,
So your
also,
your
I'm
hand is
sorry.
still up.
Okay, I'll take it down now. But what was the other thing I was going to say there?
We can come back to you. Dave had his hand
Why don't
up.
we do that?
No, I'm just kind of agreeing that having a separate section, maybe 1 or 2 lines about no trail modifications makes
Yep.
sense.
Yep.
But I still like this section. I like what Rachel added to the conversation a week or 2 ago on, the commission encourages mountain bikers to practice trail etiquette, and I like all that stuff. So I don't think we just ditch this whole section. I think
Talking about E.
it's more section E, that modification. Let's get that out of there, because that, to
I
me,
got it.
opens a door we don't really want opened.
Yeah.
I think Alex has the frame in mind.
Okay, great.
Andre again?
So I remember what I was going to say. I would add also in the mountain biking thing, or in the trail non-modification of trails. One of the things that I'm seeing mountain bikers do, and I've raced mountain bikes since '93, still do, is people are taking the trails and they're blowing out the leaves off the trails as a way to prep the trails for easier riding in the winter, and so on. Now, what that does is it provides for a very easily uh, easily what do you call it, when the trails can get messed up pretty easily because they're not protected by the layers of leaves. And I've seen consistently on New England Mountain Bike Association posts, folks who are saying that they've been doing it. If you go on the Houston Gauge Trail, you'll see that it's been blown out.
Do you mean they're using leaf blowers out there?
They're
Andre?
using leaf blowers out in
Oh
the
my
middle of the
God.
woods,
They do
blowing
it all the
leaves.
way on Poverty Mountain, like at the top of the mountain. They
Oh
blow
my
the leaves off
goodness.
the
Yeah,
trail.
and I've noticed it now in places that I hadn't
Oh, that's
seen it
troubling.
before. I've mountain biked in these on the Houston Gauge, Poverty Mountain area, all that ever since 1984. So this is a new thing to me, and it's being
Wow.
done, and it's also being done uh, in a semi-organized manner. So I think doing that. And might I suggest also just reaching out to some of these organizations to talk to them. Same thing with,
Yeah.
hikers and hunters. I think we need to do a little bit more education, and I've realized that over the last couple of weeks. But
Okay.
just putting that out for the leaf blowing and all that.
Can I just ask related to that? I was wondering if there's some safety component to that, because I know like oak leaves are super slippery and even to walk on, and I was wondering if that in part was
It's somebody who doesn't want to take the time to slow down and learn a little bit of technical riding. That's what it is. I've ridden for years and years and years. Or you just have to ride according to the terrain that you're riding in. And if people want to make a bike park out of it, they should go to a bike park.
I think we have beaten 15E to death and need to move on. we have a long ways to go, so I would ask people to be as brief as possible, just state their point once and ask for feedback. And Andre, we need to run through, just a minute, Rachel. We need to run through with you what we said to Rachel. Are you, I don't see your face, but I assume you can hear me. We have nearly a quorum of the commission. So everybody is welcome to talk, to join in the conversation, but you and Rachel can't make a motion, second a motion, or vote, because this is not an advertised commission meeting. And we just want to be careful of that. Rachel?
I want to echo what Andre said. Over in Hadley, there are signs up, educational signs about not leaf blowing, that it actually protects the trails and makes them more durable long-term, keeping the leaves. And I will echo about the technique, and just you go a little bit more slowly. Your wheels slide around a little bit more. Acorns also can be really, really surprising, but it's part of fall riding in New England.
Okay. I just want to, before we leave E, I want to make sure that I am clear on what modifications we're going to make. And if I can reiterate for you what I think we've decided on, and then I'm going to look for nods of heads one way or the other. Either yes, you got it, or no, you don't. So I think what we decided is that we're going to have a separate item as a policy on trails. And that's going to say that making new trails, modifying trails is prohibited, period. Short and sweet. And that with regard to E, we're going to tailor this to mountain bikes and just say modifying trails to enhance mountain bike experience is prohibited.
Horse riders do it too. I mean, they like pile logs for jumps just in case we're trying to not be completely prejudiced.
Okay. I'm going to make a general comment, and that is there are a lot of users for our conservation land, and they all have different interests. It's all, if they're Amherst residents, it's part of, they own it as well as anybody else. We do not have all interests represented on the commission or in the subcommittee. We have a fairly narrow point of view compared to what's out there. And part of me is saying to myself that we should be able to accommodate multiple uses so long as they don't conflict or damage the land or the resources, so that people can enjoy the property in the way that they want to, so long as it doesn't do any environmental harm, endanger somebody, etc. And sometimes I think we are pretty narrow in our point of view. That's just, don't need comment. It's just an observation. And sometimes we're like a toggle switch. It's either yes or no and no middle ground whatsoever. And so moving on. So I will modify E. I'm going to take out the examples and just say modifying trails to enhance mountain bike or horseback riding experience is prohibited.
Are you going to make any reference to the leaf issue, leaf blowing?
I'm not going to have any examples. Unless the group wants to. Tell me what you.
I would suggest maybe putting it under the general trails section as opposed to singling it out during users. Just say, this include, or say, there's no blowing of leaves on trail surfaces or something like that.
Okay. So what's going to happen is something will get written. It'll come back to the committee after the new year, and you folks will be able to modify it to suit yourself, and then we'll move from there. So I'll just come up with a draft. It may not be perfect, and it'll go through the normal process, of this committee where we'll be able to chew on it and make it to our liking. Is that okay?
I thank the chair.
Okay. Andre, you had your hand up.
I think you've answered it. If there's going to be another bite at this, I'll just remain here quiet.
Okay, I want to move on. I think we're done with E. I'm getting everybody's blank stare.
Mm.
Okay, F. Mountain bikers must travel at a safe speed, in control, and not jeopardize others. Problems?
Nope.
Can I move on?
Yes.
Okay, the commission encourages I'll just say first, I wrote the text. The 1, 2, 3, 4 comes from Rachel's email, and it was very helpful. I didn't change a word, but the commission encourages mountain bikers to practice the trail etiquette of yielding to others. Common courtesy for bikers, 1, 2, 3, 4. Comments?
All good, I think.
Rachel.
I think that's the International Mountain Bike Association's trail etiquette that Rachel's mentioned to you.
I just want to make a pitch for signage. I used to see that like it's a triangle and it just shows who yields to who, and I think that's generally
I
good.
second that.
We're redoing our signs now, so we can add that to our list. Aaron and I are working with others on that.
Should I add a B, C, D, E, F, G? Should I have an H about signage?
Mm,
Thank you. Okay. Well, I think we're done with mountain
We
bikes.
will incorporate it, Michelle's comment, into the
Okay.
signage.
We started 3 minutes, 4 minutes late, but mountain bikes took us 43 minutes. We have a ways to go. I would ask that we try to be briefer and not say things 3 or 4 times. We just understand each other and try to move more quickly. And just for you, Andre, we're going to handle hunting separately as an agenda item. We're going to cover the dogs next. Then we're going to cover community gardens. Did you see the agenda?
I saw it the other day. I haven't seen it. No, I'm not. I don't
Okay.
have it in my
So
head.
there was item 5 was bird banding. I don't have anything for that yet. Number 6 was beavers. I haven't written anything for that. Forest management has some tweaking to do. So those 3 items, we'll get back a half an hour, some of which we just used. We're going to have a discussion about native land acknowledgement, and then we're going to talk about next steps. And then the agenda has a list of what policies have gone to the commission and their status. So next is on this document, which I don't know if you have it in front of you, Andre. Aaron, maybe you could send it to him.
I think I could probably bring it up. Isn't it in our documents?
I don't know. I just sent it to Aaron last night.
Oh, then I don't
Aaron,
think I could.
if you could just forward him what I sent you, that would be great. So dogs, while she's doing that, we'll just head into dogs. Again, the yellow is new text. And the stuff that's not yellow, you've seen before, and in fact was approved by the commission. So let's go at it.
The version that I got only had the yellow text, I think. So I think I was only looking at what was new.
It says
It was-
off-leash dog training is not permitted on conservation land except during off-leash hours at locations designated above. Do you have that, Michelle?
Yeah, but so 17 has like A through E, correct? And we're just not seeing,
Yeah, none of that other stuff has changed.
okay, right. So we're just looking at what's new. I have no comment on the new stuff.
Yeah, no,
I'm fine with the new,
if it's not, excuse me, Bruce and Aaron, but if it's not here, it didn't change.
Okay,
So what's here would have to be approved by us and then by the commission. And we have opportunity to modify it as we see fit before it goes to the commission. That's why it's before you. Aaron?
I guess I was just confused a little bit and just wanted a little clarification. This is saying non-commercial off-leash dog training. Am I understanding that right? Because before we had had a conversation about commercial dog training not being permitted. So I just want,
There's a whole thing in another policy about commercial use. And we did provide the commission with opportunity to waive that prohibition, and there was some examples given, and I think that was covered there. I don't have it fresh in my
okay.
mind.
Okay, I just want to make sure that this is not changing that at all.
I would have to go back to what we said for commercial use. I do know that we provided, when that commercial use came up with a woman wanted to take photographs, Andre said, that's the law. We have no ability in these policies to modify it. Therefore, no, she can't do it. And soon after that, that commercial policy was found to be in conflict with the fee structure, because the fee structure has a fee for photographs. And so that commercial use was modified so that the commission can, if it wants, waive the prohibition. And I've forgotten the exact words, but I think it's covered. I don't think commercial dog, what I can remember better than that, just so that you're clear, we did not allow commercial dog training. What we did allow was somebody walking up to a certain number of dogs for a resident who is handicapped or something of that sort. And I think that was a Rachel comment. Okay. Oh, any other discussion about dogs? Good.
Yeah, I have a comment. I think the ground nesting season for birds should probably be defined further rather than just have it being left up in the air. Laws that aren't defined really can't be enforced.
Yeah, I thought about we have ground nesting season.
What I mean is that it should have some dates.
There's too many, there's to go through all the birds and list which ones are ground nesters and their dates was beyond the time that I had.
we could just
Yeah,
do
I would
May,
definitely not suggest that. What I'm suggesting is that
May 1st to July 1st.
yeah, as long as it's defined. If not, then you may as well not have the law there. It's just a suggestion.
That covers potentially 2 broods, late nesters, failed first nesters. And it provides some structure to that rule. So yeah, I think having to assume someone's gonna look that up somewhere else is kind of unrealistic.
Okay, give me that again, Michelle, that's
You
helpful.
just, I mean, usually it just says like May through June is typical.
May 1 through June 30.
Michelle, why not July 15th just for,
Yeah, I like,
grassland birds,
let's do it. May 1.
bobolinks, meadowlarks? We've had that discussion a little bit before, and that's even it's kind of a, some folks are saying even later than that, but I think July 15th, July 1 seems a little
Okay,
early to
no,
me.
I
I'd rather-
agree, Dave.
yeah.
And like when there's baby birds on the ground, they can be harmed too. So if it was up to me, it would be all the way through July, like August 1st, and then everyone's flying and out of there. So
Mhm.
if our point is to have no harm to the wildlife, then May through July or August 1st would take
Mhm.
care of the whole life cycle.
Mhm.
Okay, just to pick this sentence apart, shall not take place during the deer hunting season. That comes from Mass Wildlife. On the ground nesting season, that comes from me. So I have spent my life rewriting these things, so forgive me for not doing the homework to come up with some dates. Let's settle, I got May 1 through, what do you want?
July 15th
I agree with
Sounds
Michelle,
good.
August 1st.
Yeah, let's do
or
August.
August 1st, whatever you want.
Well,
Later is better.
Can we do July 31st rather than mention?
Yeah.
I guess that way August isn't part of it.
Right. Makes sense.
Done.
Also, the way this reads to me when I first read it, Alex, and I appreciate your your writing, but to me this doesn't say like neotropical ground nesting birds, or it actually, to me, it spoke to ground nesting birds that are hunted, just the way, because it's nestled in that same paragraph. So
Doesn't say that.
I didn't get it that way.
yeah, it just,
It doesn't say that.
I know, it's just upland bird hunting, and then you say ground nesting, but anyway, that's fine.
I,
As long as we get those
I'm
dates in there.
just trying to be economical on words and sentences and,
In time.
okay, I've got May 1 through July 31st. I think I'm done. So we're gonna now turn to hunting. Andre, do you have the document? Oh, I got hands up, excuse me. Michelle, Rachel.
I was just saying, you could flip the sentence order, so for clarity. Move the restriction to the middle and then what's permitted to the bottom. So the restrictions are at the top and what's permitted is at the bottom.
Give it to me again. I'm sorry, I'm having trouble switching gears.
The first sentence says off leash training is not permitted. And then if you moved your last sentence to that next sentence to say off leash dog training for birds
So
shall
take the
not.
last sentence and make it the second sentence.
Yes, I think that would be clear.
Okay, got it. Okay. Good. Anything else? Somebody else?
Yeah.
Andre.
So the just I don't mean to complicate things, but I am. Off-leash dog training for upland bird hunting and retrieving shall not take place during any deer season. Are you talking about the bow season as well? In October, or should it be shotgun and primitive firearm seasons?
I got this from Mass Wildlife. I'd have to go get their regulations. And actually what I was thinking of was the regulations and Mass Wildlife regulations call for shotgun and primitive firearm. And I was trying to wrap in the Youth Deer Hunt Day, which is in September. And so I just said any deer season, but I frankly, I didn't mean to include archery.
All right, well, it's something that can be done offline and then reviewed later.
I just soon take care of it now so that this can move to the commission for their review.
So I would then, so if you want a suggestion on some wording, then I would just add in there.
Not take, go ahead.
During any deer firearms or primitive firearms deer season, shotgun or primitive firearms deer season.
What is allowed during the youth day, which is usually, I think, September? Is that shotgun or primitive arms?
It's, you can use shotgun, but I don't think that that's one that really needs to be pinpointed unless you want to.
Well, Mass Wildlife seems to be pretty plain all over the place that they want certain things to be prohibited during deer
Yeah.
season.
So then I would just get that wording off of Mass Wildlife.
Okay, I'm gonna put down shotgun.
And
I'm not as concerned about the youth day. It's one day in September, but that's a good bird hunting. That's a good, that's a nice time for somebody to be out training his dog. Shotgun or primitive firearms, deer season. So now it reads take place during any shotgun or primitive arms deer season. Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Okay. Do you now have the document that Aaron sent you that is we're reviewing?
Yep, it's right here.
Okay. So now we're gonna go to hunting. As a separate subject on the agenda. Aaron, is there anybody else from the public joined us? Can you see? The answer is no. Okay,
Sorry, I
So-
forgot I was on mute. Nope.
hunting. Okay, so everything here is in yellow. Therefore, everything is new. What was previously written has been tossed out. And I did have coffee with Andre, and which was productive. And I have, for lots of reasons, rewritten this so that it allows hunting as we always have and tries to still put emphasis on safety, public safety. So let's go through it. And if anybody wants to, I'm going to hold Andre for just a second and ask other commissioners or anybody else if they have any questions before we get into this. Dave?
Yeah, I guess I would start off with kind of a fundamental question, Alex. Your statement that everything else has been thrown out, is that how you phrased it? I'm just
Everything that's in front of you is yellow.
right. I see that.
There's no previous text here.
Right. So I guess what I'm doing, I just want to ask about process here. So this subcommittee with 3 members of the commission made a recommendation to the full Conservation Commission last meeting. The commission had a brief but spirited conversation about that, and it was decided to not approve that and send it back to this group, this subcommittee for discussion. So now the group is looking at a complete, I mean, this is basically a 360-degree move from what was presented to the commission. And I'm just wondering how does that happen between meetings without this group discussing where they want to go based on the feedback they got from one commissioner who is one member of a 7-member body? I'm just, from a deliberative standpoint, that is a little concerning to me. And I
Okay.
just want to put that out there. So I'm
Bruce?
looking for,
Bruce?
yeah.
My slightly different interpretation of what Dave just said is that the chair of our subcommittee took the advice of the full commission and reworked, based on that discussion, reworked the language. And he sought additional advice from commissioners, which he got, and he rewrote the section. And he is now bringing it back to us for discussion and consultation. And especially given that we're not trying to finish all this by the end of this meeting, because we're going to clearly have to have a further extension, I'm comfortable with starting the discussion based on Alex's new draft, and we'll see where we go.
Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, so I'm okay with that too, Bruce. I think we came from a place is how and where can we have hunting, and we went through this pretty in-depth process to look at that with the GIS analysis, and then we ended up saying that we didn't feel that it was consistent with a public safety initiative, and there was room to look at that in a different way, like reduce our buffer from 500 to maybe 150. But I don't want to discount the process that we went through to get to the former decision, but I'd like to hear how this new position is consistent with our, concerns for the public safety, so that we are still looking at it the same way, but we found maybe those margins of error, we're looking at the margins of error a little differently, so this is still consistent with our process, because I am supportive of the process that we went through, but I think, again, the variables could be changed a bit to still find places where we could have hunting.
Thank you. Dave, you already spoken. Do you need to speak again?
Yeah, if I could, and again, I'm not as concerned with the outcomes. I'm more concerned with the process. And I will say that normally for an appointed body like the Conservation Commission, for two members to meet outside of the public arena to discuss,
We had coffee.
you met specifically to discuss the hunting policy,
We had
is what
coffee.
I understand. So I'm just saying, I would put out there a concern that is not normally an accepted practice to discuss policy. And I guess my other question is, were any of these materials shared with any commission members before this meeting? Did other commission members, I mean, Aaron and I just saw this at 4 o'clock in the morning when you sent it, Alex. Did other members of this committee see it earlier, or?
I'm going to plead the fifth on that one.
It's a simple question. I'm just
Yeah,
wondering.
I'm not going to go there.
It's just troubling. I'm just putting it out there that it's troubling from a process standpoint.
Meeting, you'll recall that when the commission voted, they voted to approve everything. And prior to voting on the rules, I proposed a motion that the commission approve the rules as presented. I could not get a second. So that did not go forward. That was pretty clear that was a pretty clear statement. I couldn't get a second from Michelle. I couldn't even get a second from Bruce.
I can't second, Alex.
Oh, I'm sorry, but I didn't mean to pick on you, but I couldn't get a second from any commissioner. That was pretty clear to me that there was an issue that needed to be addressed, and that what we were putting forward was unacceptable. And frankly, from a personal standpoint, I have tried really hard to finish the charge for this committee by the end of this month. It has dominated my life. I have 3 volunteer jobs, and I can tell you I put 2 of them on the sidelines to get this done as best I can by the end of the month. And we're not going to make it. But I tried. I don't think I could have tried any harder. So I sat down by myself and began to think about what could I do. And I came up with the draft that you have in front of you. And it goes back to what we have had forever, and nobody has objected to it. It's all worked. We've never had any accidents. But when Dave and I and the committee talked about what it is we're trying to promote, hold on, Andre. When we said, what's driving this? And the answer was public safety. And we had all kinds of discussions about how many accidents have there been, and we concluded we didn't want to have any. So it was clear that we couldn't come back to the commission with anything close to what we had and make any progress. So it was a waste of my time and everybody's time to try and do that. So I spent a lot of time looking up laws, bylaws for the town, and tried to put in here as much safety stuff as I possibly could find, because the interest was still to promote public safety. And Dave, in the back of my mind, frankly, the propensity to build trails, and we now have, you tell me, 140 miles of trails. What I don't know is what has been the growth of trails in the hunting areas. And I wrote to you, I was also concerned about the 500-foot buffer, which is state law. That's a state safety law, not a fish and wild, not a mass wildlife law. That Simmons Farm, for example, has a big buffer. And I wrote to you saying, could we update the maps that were made in 2014 so that we can see what the residential development now is, and put that 500-foot buffer on the maps? And you didn't give me a clear answer. You said you wanted to talk about it at this meeting, and I said I hadn't planned time for it. I am trying hard to get as far to the finish line as I can in this month. And what I have in front of you, I think will be acceptable in my mind. Otherwise, I wouldn't have spent hours and hours and hours and hours trying to put it together. And I think it does put us back to the status quo, but more than ever, if you look at what the previous policy was, it was simply hunting and fishing are allowed. This has a bunch of stuff in there about public safety to try and keep people safe. And that isn't to say that, you know, when you and I were down at Hop Brook and that fellow came along in the blaze orange jacket and hat, and I stopped him and I said, any reason for the clothing? And you were there, and he says, yeah, I got sprayed by shotgun pellets. And so I did, the process is me reacting to the commission pretty clearly and coming back to this committee with a proposal to go through our deliberative process to see if what I have prepared, this committee will approve going to the commission. So I think our process is pretty good. And I don't think I needed to wait for the commission, this subcommittee, to say, well, let's do this. I have drafted most of the policies, except the agricultural policy, that's gone before the commission. And that has all come before this commission. That's been a ton of work. So I've said enough. And I want to, you got your hand up, Dave. We've heard from you a couple of times. Michelle, I'd really like to hear from Andre. He's had his hand up and hasn't said anything.
Yeah, I was just gonna give my view of the meeting that we had, Dave. Specifically, what happened from my point of view is that Alex took a little bit of umbrage to the statement that I made during our last meeting, which was that this looked like something that was put together by a group of non-hunters. So Alex explained to me that he wanted to have an opportunity to get to know each other better because he is a hunter after all. And that's where he's coming from. And that's the meeting that we had the other day, if that makes any sense. The meeting was more than anything to get to know each other a little better, to get to know each other's backgrounds. And that's how it happened.
I have deer heads on the wall. I had an elk skin spread out, 32 deer skins spread out, a moose foot that I shot when I was 14. Andre had said what he just said, and that didn't characterize me. And it occurred to me that we don't know each other very well, so I invited him to coffee. Michelle?
Well, I'm glad you guys got to do that because, Zoom meetings don't really allow for the humanity of working on a commission sometimes. But I want to kind of talk about the policy too. And I don't know that going back to what we had before is the best course of action either. But I would really be interested, and I didn't know about somebody getting sprayed with shotgun pellets on conservation land, and that's something that came up during our meeting. So that's an incident, and that's notable. And I'm just wondering, can we look at like 150-foot buffer around trails? Because what you have in there right now is a buffer for buildings and a buffer for the rail trail and a buffer for pavement. But there's still this question of what does it look like with all of those public trails there and hunters? Are all those places on the list? Should we have them all on the list? And I don't know the answer to that, but the GIS analysis helped to visualize something like that. So I'm all for keeping places like hopefully Lawrence Swamp open, but I don't know what the other places look like when we do account for those trails and people on them. So that's all. I don't necessarily want to just pretend like we never had that conversation and we're back to the beginning.
We had hours of conversation.
I know, but now we're in the same place that we started, and I don't want to discount all of those hours of conversation.
Well, neither did I. Dave? Your hand's up.
A couple of comments. And I don't disagree with what has been said here at all. I start out by saying I am just a little troubled and concerned again that we keep all of this deliberation in the public venue, and I'll just keep saying that. So it's just a little troubling to me if we've made any progress or any of this happened outside of a public meeting. But anyway, you may recall that I was actually the one repeatedly that kind of questioned, is there a safety justification for as we looked at trail setbacks and 150 feet, 250 feet, or 300 feet, or 500 feet. I asked a couple of times specifically, boy, it seems like we're moving in the direction of banning hunting across the board in town. And because I was a little surprised, wow, our conversations seemed to be going there. So I just put that out there. In terms of trails, Alex, I want to make it clear, there really has not been a significant increase in the number of trails in the last 12 to 15 years. What changed was between 80 and 140 miles of trails is Aaron did a GIS analysis and determined that our number that we have been carrying for years and years and years was incorrect. So there really isn't, that's significant. It's like, whoa, we went from 80 to 140 miles of trails. It was just a recalculation, that's all. So we were carrying a low number for 15 years or whatever. So all good there. And again, I'm not saying, I think the other thing is what I felt in the meeting a couple of weeks ago was, and Aaron made this point to me maybe in a conversation after that, is it kind of appeared to an outside person, it might have appeared like all conservation land was open to hunting and we're taking it all away, or the recommendation was of the commission was to, or the subcommittee was to take it all away, when in fact there were only 6 or 7 places open anyway, and those were being reduced from X to Y. So anyway, I'm kind of open to what the subcommittee wants to recommend in the future. I will say that, with respect, and I understand you've put in a lot of time on this, Alex, but I'm not sure the words we put up on the screen make or what we put on a sign make it any safer. We're just recapping what is out there in state law, and they'll be on the website, and they'll be on kiosks and things like that. So the other one fact I want to share with everybody, and I'm not sure this came out before. I think my understanding is in the last 30 years or so, there's really only been one significant hunting injury, and that was at Amethyst Brook. And that was probably back in the 80s, early 90s,
Yeah.
where somebody was shot.
Yeah, Peter,
That is
Pete told me.
yeah,
Pete
that is
Webster
the
told me.
only significant. Now there's been lots of people frightened and oh my goodness, there's something going on. I saw people with guns, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But there's only really been one significant injury, and that was quite a serious injury. But again, I just wanted to put those facts out there. So I will stop there.
Yeah, Pete told me that a fellow, probably around age 21, shot a 22 from approximately the parking lot at Amethyst Brook down the trail into the woods and hit a woman who was in the, and I've not been able to track down any police record, and I tried to search the Gazette and I didn't come up with any information about that.
Just for the record, we've had far, far more injuries caused by dogs than by
Yeah.
at hunting.
Yeah, and I recall, Dave, you told me that one time you were up on the ridge and you were hiking and gunshots went off and you all hit the ground. So it was a concern to you.
Sure. Safety
Um,
as always.
Bruce,
Um,
before Bruce starts, all I want to say is I am working my very hardest to try and find a way to the finish line. And I was trying to do it before December. All I can do is try hard. And did I lose Andre? Yeah, I would appreciate it if he was on. Aaron, is there some way you can connect with him to see if he's having trouble? Bruce?
Well, I simply want to say that whatever we do, I don't think we should be driven by individual incidents of various types. And I'm reminded of Dave's more data-driven notion that the trails are being used a lot more than they used to be, and maybe for more by different kinds of people and for different purposes than they used to be. Now, even that isn't, based on a survey or something, but at least it's more than just one thing. So that's my comment.
Did yeah, Aaron, did we lose Andre or is he trying to get back in?
I don't know. I mean, I feel a little uncomfortable prodding him, like if he had a reason to leave. But yeah, I just had a comment about the analysis.
I'll send him an email. It's fine.
Just that, looking at the state setbacks, I think would have some value here. To see, and again, whatever you guys decide regarding trail setbacks or whether to use them or not, but when you do the 150 foot from paved roads and the 500 feet from residential structures, it does leave, a number of properties that are outside of those buffers. So just that might be something the committee would want to look at. I know it's kind of covered under Alex's policy and that he notes those setbacks, but it might eliminate confusion just to have them mapped to see where they are and whatnot. So just a thought. And I mean, I guess the other thing, just Alex, I know you felt like there's quite a bit of pressure to finish by the end of the year. And I mean, I guess this just from a staff standpoint, I just wanted to say that, I hope that, even if this committee doesn't finish its charge, where I feel like there's an opportunity here to continue working on this beyond the date that the committee dissolves. Like there are unfinished pieces, but that doesn't mean that staff can't continue to carry that forward and just continue this with the entire commission. So I just wanted to put that out there because I don't think we should be feeling like we're under an extreme amount of pressure to finish by, the date of the subcommittee ending.
Okay, so I see two hands up, but if I would like to respond to Aaron, if you recall, our charter expired end of June, or maybe it was the end of July. And I think it was the end of June. And we had to come in for an extension. Dave told me that he thought we could finish up by the end of August, which I thought was enthusiastic of him. And I said, no, I don't think so. The rate at which we cancel meetings, and we had a statistic for how many we had canceled. That's why I asked for the end of the calendar year. That was way more than Dave thought was necessary from his point of view. And we've used it. And since September, made the decision to start sending policies to the commission so it wouldn't all pile up at the very end. And I try to be diligent to be sending things to the commission to avoid a backlog at the end. So frankly, this job is twice as much as, or maybe even 3 times as much as being a commissioner. And it has frankly put me in jeopardy of meeting deadlines in one of my other jobs, which I volunteer for, which I need to get back to. So I'm all for pushing as hard as I can, or I have been all for pushing as hard as I can. It was my self-inflicted pressure. I didn't feel pressure from anybody else except to meet the deadline that was agreed to. And that's what I've been trying to do with the help of the committee. So, as I said, I think it'll go on. And if it goes on too much, I'm going to resign from this subcommittee. I just can't afford the time that it takes. But I'm willing to continue into January, but that's about it. I could actually use about a month and a half, 2 months to make up the time that I've lost to my other job. We got hands up. Michelle?
Yeah, I just want to say that whatever we decide, I'd really support having some clear objective justification for it. So like Aaron said, these are properties that are, meet the criteria of being outside those state buffers. And then if we're not doing any trail buffer, be clear about that. But just that they're not sort of an arbitrary selection. And this goes back to not sort of throwing out the whole process that we spent months on before, which was an objective look at where we can have multiple uses happening on the trails and conservation area at the same time.
Okay, thanks. Andre, welcome back.
Thank you. Yeah, I got booted out somehow. Yeah, I don't think you can be objective if you don't have all the information that that you need to make these decisions. And I did, I've spoken to the state deer biologist who puts on programs for towns that, and he advises them not to close off areas to hunting because of several other reasons. And I've provided the full commission a bunch of documents that talk about that. But I also requested that that an invitation be extended to the deer biologist, the state deer biologist, and to date, I haven't seen an invitation for him. This is the expert on hunting and human slash hunting issues in towns. We need to invite that person if we're going to get a full um, uh, amount of information that will help us to make these decisions. He's given me the example of a town that did prohibit hunting, and now they've had to work really hard to get hunting back into the realm of being allowed, and it's a whole lot harder to do that. So you guys need to be considering the experts who know what they're talking about when it comes to hunting and hunting slash human interactions before making decisions on making prohibitions. That was my recommendation, and I haven't seen any invitation extended to the state biologists who are experts in this and who do these programs for towns. So I suggest that if you're going to be considering closures on hunting, that you talk to the experts so that we all know and the people in the town can hear what the implications are. You know, you're talking about a lot higher deer collisions with vehicles. You're talking about a lot more concentrated incidence of Lyme disease. And you can look back to maybe 10 or so years ago, or where there were almost no deer car collisions. They were fairly negligible. But now, last year, I believe we had 17, and this year, up until through August, we had, I think it was 13. I've had 2 in front of my house since then. So we need to consider all of the issues, and that is public safety, people crashing in their cars or people getting a Lyme disease. I've been treated 12 times for it. Anyone who spends a lot of time out in the woods probably has been treated as well. But we can't make informed decisions if we don't have the information. I'm going to leave it at that. And again, I'm going to re-recommend that we get somebody to talk to us so that everybody, including the townsfolk who we represent, understand what the implications would be to closing hunting closures.
So I see 2 hands up. Dave, you've talked a lot. You're not a commissioner. And
I'd still like to talk. I'm happy to have Rachel go first.
Yeah, but we're at 1:29. And we have yet to talk about next steps, next agenda. Michelle's going to disappear pretty soon, and we haven't come to closure. I'm going to propose that what I have provided to you on hunting and the other 2 things be provided to the commission for their review and comment. And I do this on purpose because it gives you the opportunity to say, no, we're not done with it, or yes, we're ready to pass it on for some further conversation. And before we leave, I'd like to know what the next step is for, we didn't even talk about community gardens, did we?
No,
Darn.
Honestly, I thought we were done with community gardens a long time ago.
No. So we have talked way too much and not made enough decisions. And that has been a problem in this committee. The time it takes to move something forward in this committee is excruciating.
Can I make a couple of suggestions, Alex?
Oh,
One,
No, I need
You're
to
telling me
close.
you're
That's right.
telling me,
I need to close this meeting and then we need to decide what comes next. And I want to hear from commissioners.
I'm kind of stunned, Alex, by your behavior in a public meeting. It's
I'm
just,
sorry, but I want to hear from commissioners.
sorry doesn't really cut it. When you're cutting people off, you're constantly cutting people off. It's
Your hand has
just,
been up more than anybody, Dave. You had plenty of
It's-
opportunity to talk. But I would like to
it's
hear
just
from
stunning to me.
Michelle and Bruce, who are members of this committee, what direction we go in. Do we continue to talk about this at the next meeting? That would be fine with me. Can this document
I-
come forward to the commission? That would be fine with me. It's up to
I
you.
will, I would like to have a chance to read it and carefully and comment before we send it to the full commission.
Okay,
Bruce, do you mean the document and portion?
The revised hunting,
Oh, okay. Yeah, I mean, Andrea's point about considering all of these public safety components, like there's some missing information. Like if we do Aaron's analysis, that might open up other places that it's safe to hunt. And if we do like where are the deer collisions and where is there overbrowsing and where's there Lyme disease, that might make us want to hunt there or like have focused areas. And I'm all for shutting down a trail for 2 weeks and just go hunting. But I again want to like have a rationale for it, and I don't know why that list is there in the first place. So I guess I'm still confused about. We're sort of at a place where we didn't make any decisions about hunting. The community gardens, there's new material, so I think because they impact the town's responsibility towards community gardens, probably should have some time for discussion with staff. So I'm happy to try and just double down on those two for the next meeting.
okay, that's fine with me. I just need to hear from you on what you want to do. Hold on, Bruce. So recapping what I heard from Michelle, just so that I can make sure I heard her clearly, is that you will move this item to the next meeting, this item and community gardens. Michelle, in your point of view, could we move mountain biking and dogs to the committee?
Sure. That's
Okay.
fine with me. I mean, Bruce, do you have a,
that's fine.
okay. I guess, Alex, we would need to be able to see the final version because we did talk about some edits today. So just getting the material in time for everybody to read it in our, so the meeting's tomorrow. Is that what you mean? Move it, okay, the next one. Yeah, that's,
No, it's really tight, almost prohibitively tight. The procedurally, the changes that we talked about for mountain biking and the new policy for trails should come before you in toto so that you can say, yes, that's fine, let's send it to the commission. And that could only be done by moving it to the January meeting.
can't we
Is-
just do that then?
That's fine.
I see
And
no
then-
problem with that.
Yeah, so that would be an agenda item for the January meeting would be to see those. So we would essentially have many of the same items on the agenda for the January meeting. I just need to know where we're going. That's all. And it's just part of the process.
Okay, let's plan on dogs and mountain biking and trails for January meeting.
And you're moving hunting to January meeting also, correct?
Yeah, I guess so. That depends
Yes.
on having another meeting though, before then to have a draft available.
I don't think we don't have another meeting in December.
So you're saying what we have today, we're gonna bring to the commission?
No, what I heard you say, I'm not saying anything. I'm asking you guys. What what I heard you say was that we'll have to put these items on the agenda for our next subcommittee meeting,
Oh, yeah, yes.
assuming that we get an extension in the charter.
I mean, I would support one more meeting to tie these up because they are loose ends, and then we'll be done with the rules and regulations at that point.
Yeah, except for hunting as part of the rules and regulations.
Well, I mean, so we have one more subcommittee meeting to finish community gardens and hunting, and that's our goal.
Yeah, and all we're doing with dogs E is moving the order of sentences. We're not changing any language. I don't know if you want that to come back. No, we did put in some dates. So that would need to come back to you.
In the subcommittee, can we just put that in with the other dog stuff that goes to the commission, the full commission in January? I think they should be able to see the whole thing. We present the whole proposed rule with all A through E, and I'm fine with what we talked about today. I don't know about Bruce.
That's fine.
Okay. That's fine. I just need to hear what you guys want, Bruce.
I wanted to hear what Dave's suggestion is.
Okay. Dave.
I've got to run to another meeting. Two quick suggestions, recommendations. One is I do think hunting is, I think the recommendation should be that the commission see all of the policy. We separate hunting because I think it's important enough and big enough. And I hear what Andre is saying. We should hear from some experts. There just isn't time. There hasn't been time to bring those in since the last meeting. So if, I suggest we pull that out. I also think the public needs to weigh in on this. There's been no opportunity for the public. If you don't hold a public hearing, that's what a public hearing is for, to hear pro and con on a policy. So I think separating hunting out and dealing with it at another date, the sky is not falling because we don't have, the status quo is fine for the time being. I would also recommend that, this subcommittee close its work either at the end of December or as early in January as possible. If we don't finish some sections, I've talked to Aaron, and staff could move those sections along and bring them, instead of bringing them to a subcommittee, bring them to the entire commission at one time, let the entire commission consider them and vote on them as we complete them. So those are my two suggestions. I got to run to another meeting though. Thank you.
Thanks,
Dave.
Dave.
Bruce.
Oh, sorry.
It was a hiccup.
Yes.
Okay. I personally favor keeping the subcommittee going until it's finished its work, rather than delegating that to Amherst staff. But okay, so I think we're over time. We're 10 minutes over. Thank you very much for folks for staying with us. I'm disappointed that we didn't get the community gardens, and I'm disappointed that we didn't get closure on more things. Anyways, Rachel, Andre, anything that you'd like to say before we end the meeting?
I'll say one thing again. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Rachel.
I was just gonna say, in regards to hunting, I know we're gonna talk about it more. I think the map would be really helpful. And as Michelle was suggesting with the 150-foot buffer on it, and I think it's great to tie it to the research on habitats. That's a question I've had. I don't know the answer to that. Like what do we as Amherst need to do to manage the population of different species that are in our conservation area if they don't have an apex predator? And looking at that, and then also just another perspective that economics are getting harder and harder for a lot of people, and a lot of people are kind of falling between the cracks, and hunting is a way some people are able to get food on the table, and just put in a pitch for that.
There's also Mass Wildlife has, I've forgotten what it's called, but it's like a food kitchen where you can take it, if you harvest a deer, you can donate it. And I think the deer have been going to a Northampton organization. And that's been very successful. I talked with the district manager down in Belchertown, and he told me how many pounds of meat have been donated, and it's not trivial. So, and I will tell you that that Mass Wildlife tries to keep the deer in this area at about 18 per square mile, and they think they're pretty close to that. Andre?
Yeah, my last words are invite this gentleman who can fill us with knowledge and experience and stories, because he's the one who knows. We don't. And then the second idea is I would like you to know where you've seen any kind of a buffer on a trail. The state does not have buffers for trails. The state has buffers for residences slash occupied dwellings, and it has buffers for roads, highways. It doesn't have buffers for trails. So when you start to look at when you start to refer to these proposed buffers that you've come up with as based on the state, it's a misnomer. So please, we don't have houses in the middle of these trails with people living in them. So let's not pretend that we have houses in the middle of trails that require 500 feet. That's the end of my spiel.
Thank you.
I move
Anything-
to adjourn.
Anything else
Second.
before? Okay, fine. We will now adjourn. And it is now 1:43. Thank you very much.
Thanks,
Bye-bye.
everyone. Night.